The microwave was still running when she walked out the front door with her suitcase. I remember because it was on exactly 0:47, and I watched the numbers count down like they meant something. I didn't even want whatever was inside, probably leftover risotto, but I hit the button out of habit, like muscle memory from a life that didn't make sense anymore. She didn't slam the door. She didn't cry. She didn't look back. And that told me everything I needed to know. Her name? Doesn't matter. Not yet. What matters is that I didn't chase her. I didn't follow her to the car. I didn't ask where she was going or who was waiting for her. I just stood there in my socks, holding a lukewarm fork, watching the seconds tick away like I was in some kind of twisted countdown to freedom, or maybe abandonment. It's funny what you notice in moments like that. The microwave's hum. The smell of citrus dish soap still clinging to the sponge in the sink. The faint click of her heels on the stone walkway, sharp and hollow, like punctuation marks in a sentence that should have ended months ago. I didn't move for a full 5 minutes. And then I laughed. Not because anything was funny, but because it was either that or scream. Let me explain something. I wasn't some saint in this marriage. I wasn't some villain either. I was the kind of guy who keeps the receipts, not to throw them in your face, but to make sure I don't forget what I paid for. I was the one who reminded her to take her iron supplements, who made her tea the way she liked it, lemon first, then honey, who told her she was beautiful even when she barely looked at me. She used to say I was too sensitive. I used to take that as a compliment. But maybe she was right. Because here I am, a grown man, emotionally paralyzed by the sight of a half-heated meal and an unlocked front door. I should have seen it coming. The late-night errands. The mysterious savings account. The fact that she suddenly started using phrases like holding space and reclaiming identity after reading one too many self-help books that might as well have been titled How to Exit Your Marriage without saying the words out loud. But I didn't see it. Or maybe I didn't want to. I thought the silence meant we were comfortable. She thought it meant we were dead. There was a note on the coffee table, folded in half. No envelope. I didn't touch it. Not out of pride. I just didn't have the strength yet. I sat down on the floor next to Crouton, our cat. Yes, I named him that, and stared at the note like it might sprout teeth and bite me. Because deep down, I already knew what it said. Not word for word, but in essence. It would say she needed to find herself. It would say you've done nothing wrong. It would say this isn't goodbye, it's a new chapter. Spoiler alert, it was goodbye. And I didn't even get a say. But here's the thing. She expected me to unravel, to spiral, to beg. She thought I'd call her parents, drive to her sister's, camp outside the guy's apartment. Yes, I know about him. I knew long before she did. The perfume on her hoodie told me months ago. But instead, I cleaned the house. Every room, top to bottom. Not because I was okay, but because I needed something, anything I could fix. And as I wiped the dust off the windowsill in the guest room, I said something out loud I never thought I'd hear myself say. You just set me free. And that's when the regret started, not mine. Hers. The first thing I noticed after she left wasn't the emptiness. It was the silence. Not the comforting kind, like when you're the last one awake and the world is finally still. No, this silence was sharp, heavy. It pressed against my ears and made the house feel like it was holding its breath, waiting for me to do something. To chase after her maybe, or read the letter, or scream into a couch cushion like some kind of sad sitcom husband. But I didn't. I just stood there with that stupid fork still in my hand. The microwave long since stopped, its screen blank like it had already moved on. Good for it. Crouton wandered in, stretched in that lazy way only cats can, and rubbed against my shin like nothing had changed. I think I envied him in that moment. No concept of betrayal, or absence, or knowing someone you loved had just quietly decided you weren't enough anymore. Eventually, I sat down at the kitchen table. The note was still there on the coffee table, untouched. I saw it from the corner of my eye. White paper, neat handwriting, folded in half with the precision of someone who had practiced. She planned this. She didn't pack in a rush. She didn't forget anything. Even took the charger from the nightstand, the one we used to argue about because somehow there was only ever one in the room. That detail wrecked me for some reason. Not the note, not the other man. The fact that she remembered the charger. It meant she wasn't coming back. But that's when it happened. That's when I felt it. This click, deep inside my chest, like a lock turning. Not rage. Not heartbreak. Something else. Clarity. She had been slipping away for months. Maybe longer. And like a fool, I kept giving her more rope, hoping she'd use it to climb back to me. But all she did was tie a neat little escape route and vanish. And here I was, still thinking we were working through a phase. Let me tell you something about phases. You don't walk out with a suitcase in the middle of reheating leftovers if it's just a phase. I didn't call her. I didn't text. I didn't even open Instagram to check if she'd posted anything cryptic in her stories. She wanted distance? She could have all of it. I went to bed that night fully dressed, lying on top of the sheets with the lights still on and the taste of metal in my mouth, probably from grinding my teeth without realizing it. By morning, everything was still where I left it. The risotto, cold. The note, unread. My heartbeat, strangely calm. I opened the windows. Not metaphorically. Literally. Every single one in the house. I let the wind come in and carry away the perfume that still lingered on the curtains. I let the sunlight hit the parts of the living room we never used anymore. I turned on a record, one she hated, and let it play too loud. And you know what happened? Nothing. No call. No, just wanted to make sure you're okay. No, maybe we should talk. She didn't even send a text to check if I read the letter. And that silence? It spoke louder than any angry voicemail ever could. By day 3, I knew something was off. Not with me. With her. A blocked number tried to call around midnight. Twice. No voicemail. I checked my emails and saw that someone had logged into our shared streaming account from a hotel in town. Not Chicago. Not a getaway. Here. Still in the city. Still nearby. So much for needing space. I laughed out loud. Not because I thought it was funny, but because I realized the game she was trying to play. She wanted to be missed. She wanted to be chased. She thought I'd show up at that hotel, broken and desperate, and beg her to come home. She thought I'd fall apart. But I didn't. Instead, I changed the locks. And that's when things really started to spiral, for her. I don't think most people realize how symbolic a lock change really is. They assume it's some petty move, like revenge or spite. A power trip. But it's not. At least, it wasn't for me. It was closure. Controlled closure. I stood there in front of the front door that we used to decorate every autumn with those overpriced faux wreaths she loved, and I unscrewed the old deadbolt myself. No locksmith. No drama. Just me, a screwdriver, and a Bluetooth speaker blasting old jazz while I worked. And the whole time, I kept thinking one thing. You only change the locks when you know they're coming back. Because I knew she would. Not to apologize. Not to explain. But because she wasn't done being adored. And I was the safest place she'd ever been worshipped. You have to understand something about Callie. She didn't need love. She needed devotion. That slow, simmering, soft-focused kind of worship that makes people fold themselves into whatever shape she needed them to be. I did it for years. And when I finally stopped bending, when I started expecting something back, she found someone else. Someone who didn't know her cracks yet. But cracks always show. And I think her new guy, whoever he is, started noticing them sooner than she expected. Because 4 days after she left, after no texts and no apologies and no updates about Crouton, which honestly hurt more than anything, she showed up at the front door. I was in the kitchen making coffee. Black. No sugar now. Don't ask me why. Something about bitterness felt honest. And then I heard it. That knock. Sharp. 2 beats. Then silence. I didn't rush. I didn't even put the mug down. I walked to the door like it was any other day, like I was expecting a delivery, and there she was, standing there in a beige coat that still had the store tag on it, hair curled like she was auditioning for a second chance. She looked surprised the door didn't open. I cracked the window beside it. Need something? Her eyes scanned the handle. She blinked like maybe it was a joke. You changed the locks? Her voice cracked just slightly, and I'll admit, I felt it. That old reflex to comfort her, to fix whatever was broken. But I didn't move. Yeah, I said. Felt right. You didn't even read the letter. I smiled. No. And I won't. She stood there for a long moment, looking like someone who just got caught returning to a crime scene, not sure whether to act casual or confess. Her voice softened. Gideon, I thought we could talk. I tilted my head slightly. Didn't realize talking required a hotel reservation and a burner phone. That landed. Her face twitched. Her lips parted like she had a comeback, but none came. She looked small, not in a pathetic way, in a real way, the first real thing I'd seen from her in months. Can I come in? She asked finally, voice just above a whisper. And that's when I did the most unexpected thing of all. I paused, not for dramatic effect, not to punish her. I paused because I genuinely didn't know the answer. I wasn't angry anymore. I was curious. Curious about how a person like her, someone who always controlled the narrative, would react to not being let back in. But before I could say anything, she broke the silence again. He left. I blinked. What? The guy? Aiden. Or whatever name he gave me. He's gone. Blocked me. Said he didn't sign up for the guilt. Said I looked like a stranger once I wasn't sneaking around anymore. I leaned against the frame. So you came back? No, she said quickly. I came home. Now that hit different. I looked at her, really looked. Her makeup was perfect, but her hands were shaking. She was trying to sell me sincerity, but her receipt said desperation. And I realized something in that moment. She expected heartbreak, anger, tears. She didn't expect indifference. She didn't expect that I had moved on faster than she had, not with someone else, but with myself. I had filled the space she left with silence, yes, but also with clarity, with peace, with strength. I didn't say any of that. I just finished my coffee, shrugged, and said, "You should go." And I shut the window. I don't know how long she stood out there. I didn't look. All I know is, the locks were changed. And so was I. I thought that would be it. I thought I'd close that window, finish my coffee, and move on with the kind of moral high ground people dream of in breakup movies. The kind where you walk off into the sunset without flinching, without regrets, without ever needing to look back. But life isn't a movie, and just when you think the third act is over, something shows up to ruin the credits. It happened the next morning. I was sitting at the kitchen table, same spot as the day she left, flipping through emails half-heartedly, while Crouton climbed inside the paper grocery bag on the floor like it was a new real estate investment. I wasn't expecting anything important, just bills, junk, the usual post-divorce admin. But then I saw the subject line. We should talk. I know who she is. No sender name. Just a string of numbers and letters like it had been auto-generated or anonymized. My first instinct was to delete it. My second was to think it was from Callie, some roundabout way of guilt-tripping me into letting her back into my life. But something about it stopped me. It wasn't the words. It was the timing. She had just shown up yesterday, broken and rejected, and now this? I clicked it. The message was short. 2 lines. You don't know the whole story. I'm not trying to start trouble. I just think you deserve to know the truth. Meet me at the cafe on Harker Street. Tomorrow. Noon. That's it. No signature. No attachment. No threat. But it rattled me. Because I had been to that cafe, with Callie. We used to go there on slow Saturdays, sit at the table by the window and people watch while pretending we had our lives together. It wasn't just some random location. Whoever sent this knew more than they should. I didn't sleep well that night. Not because I was scared, but because I hated that tiny part of me that was still curious. I wanted to be done. I was done. I had passed the test. She came back, and I didn't fold. I was supposed to be healing, rebuilding, whatever buzzwords self-help podcasts like to throw around. But there I was at 11:52 the next day, sitting in my car across the street from the cafe, engine running, watching the door like it might confess something. And then I saw her. Not Callie. Someone else. A woman. Mid-30s maybe, tall, thin, sharp cheekbones, sharp everything. She had that look, like someone who wore purpose like perfume. She didn't hesitate. She sat at the outside table. No coffee. Just her phone face down and her hands in her lap, like she was expecting a confrontation. I crossed the street slowly. Still unsure. Still 1 foot out. But she looked up the second I stepped off the curb. Gideon. Her voice was calm. Controlled. Like she'd practiced saying it. I nodded. That's me. She gestured to the seat. I sat. She didn't waste time. My name's Mara, she said. I dated the man your wife was seeing. My stomach turned. Was seeing? I asked. She gave a small, dry laugh. Oh no. Still is. She just lied to you about him walking away. I couldn't speak. My brain was trying to load too many tabs at once. Mara leaned forward. Look, I know this is weird. You don't owe me anything. But when I found out who she was, I had to reach out. Aiden, if that's even his real name, he's done this before. He finds women in unstable marriages, convinces them to leave, promises them some whirlwind life, and then he moves on to the next. He's like a parasite with cologne. I didn't want to believe her. Not because she didn't sound credible, but because I was tired. Emotionally, mentally, spiritually tired of being tangled in Callie's wreckage. But then she pulled out her phone and placed it in front of me. Open chat logs. Photos. Screenshots. A timestamped picture of Callie just 3 days ago, sitting in a dim hotel bar with the same lipstick she'd worn when she came to my door. Leaning in close to him. Still lying. Still choosing him. And here I was thinking I had the final word. Thinking she regretted anything. Mara didn't gloat. She just let me process. I left him 2 months ago, she said finally. And I only just realized he was already grooming someone else. Your wife. I looked down at the photo again. At Callie's familiar half-smile, the one she used to give me when she wanted me to think everything was fine. It wasn't fine. It had never been fine. I looked back at Mara. Why tell me all this? She shrugged. Because I stayed too long. Maybe if someone had told me earlier, I would have gotten out before I lost my job, my savings, and a year of my life. We sat there for a while. No more words. Just two strangers with too many shared ghosts between them. When I got home that night, I finally opened the note Callie had left on the coffee table. It said everything I expected, about finding herself, about needing time, about me being too good to be treated this way, which somehow made it worse. But at the very bottom, scrawled in smaller ink, almost like a whisper, was one last line. If I regret this, will you still be there? I folded the note. I knew my answer now. And next time she knocked, she wouldn't be met with silence. She'd be met with truth. For most of my life, I've been the quiet one in the room. The guy who listens while everyone else talks over each other. The guy who knows things he'll never say out loud because he doesn't want to make things worse. The guy who shrinks himself just enough so no one ever feels threatened. Callie loved that about me, until she didn't. Until it bored her. Until she decided she wanted chaos wrapped in cologne. But as I sat there staring at the last line of her letter, if I regret this, will you still be there? Something inside me hardened. Not anger. Not even resentment. Just a cold, final sense of knowing. Like a door had closed somewhere deep inside me, and I didn't have the key anymore. And I didn't want it. I didn't text her. I didn't block her. I didn't do anything dramatic. Instead, I got quiet in a different way, strategic quiet. I went to work like normal, answered emails, cooked for one. I vacuumed the hallway, repotted the jade plant she used to forget to water, and I started keeping track of things. Every login notification, every strange phone call, every time her name popped up on my bank notifications or my streaming services. Because here's the thing. People like Callie, people who are used to being adored and forgiven and begged for, they don't handle silence well. They interpret it as plotting. They panic when the person they expected to fall apart doesn't even flinch. And she was starting to unravel. It started small. A Venmo request for $8.64, a number too specific to be accidental. I denied it. 2 days later, she texted, "Did you get my note? We should talk." I left it on read. The next morning, I woke up to an email titled, "I know I messed up." No body text. Just the subject line. It was like she wanted to throw a hook into the water and see if I'd still bite. I didn't. Instead, I emailed the bank and had her name removed from the joint account. Froze the credit card I knew she still had memorized. Updated passwords. Enabled two-factor authentication on everything. Even called the local storage unit we used to rent together and told them to flag any access attempts. If I sounded paranoid, maybe I was. But I wasn't going to be caught flat-footed again. Then, a week later, it escalated. She showed up at my work. I saw her through the glass walls of the lobby, pacing like she didn't know whether to storm in or collapse. I work at a nonprofit. Everyone's nice, everyone gossips in polite whispers, and the last thing I wanted was to be the guy with marital drama. So I slipped out the back exit, walked to the coffee shop down the street, and waited to see if she'd follow. She didn't. Later that night, I got a voicemail. "No, hi, no, it's me." Just her voice, thin and trembling. I thought I knew what I wanted. I don't even know who I am anymore. He's not what I thought. He said some things. I made a mistake. Please call me. I'm scared. And for a second, just 1 second, I felt that old urge rise up. That stupid, conditioned need to protect her, to fix it, to be the guy who catches her when she falls no matter how many times she jumped just to see if I would. But then I remembered Mara. I remembered the screenshots. I remembered that Callie didn't trip into an affair. She built it, brick by brick, lie by lie. And when it fell apart, she came crawling back not because she missed me, but because I was safe. That night, I finally did something I'd been putting off since the day she walked out. I boxed up everything that still smelled like her. Scarves, sweaters, old t-shirts. Notes she left me over the years, cards she once made, even the framed photo from our wedding that used to sit in the hallway. I didn't throw them away. I donated every single item to a local charity. Someone else could wear those things now. Someone who didn't know the weight stitched into every seam. The next morning, I got another message, not from Callie this time, but from Mara. He's not done. He's already talking to someone new. Just thought you'd want to know how fast she got replaced. I stared at that message for a long time. Not because I was surprised, but because a part of me realized something brutal and liberating. Callie was never really leaving me for him. She was leaving me for who she got to be around him. And when he moved on, she tried to come back to the version of herself that only existed in my eyes. Safe, forgiven, adored. But that version of me was gone now. And she knew it. The balance had shifted. She was scared. And for the first time in our entire relationship, I wasn't. The house had grown into a kind of quiet I'd never known before. Not the empty, echoing kind you get after a fight or a breakup, but something deeper, quieter, more deliberate. I started sleeping through the night, waking up before my alarm, brewing coffee without thinking about whether she wanted oat milk or almond. It was as if the walls were finally breathing again. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was walking on eggshells inside my own skin. But peace doesn't last when guilt's still out there trying to kick the door in. It was a Thursday when she showed up again, this time unannounced, uninvited, and far more desperate than before. I heard the knock before I saw her, but I already knew. There was something about the rhythm. Too fast, too hard. She was unraveling. I took my time walking to the door, not because I wanted to assert power, but because I had none left to give. I opened it slowly, and there she was, hair in a messy bun, no makeup, hoodie half-zipped like she dressed in a hurry. "Gideon," she breathed, her voice cracking. "Please, can we just talk? Please. I don't know where else to go." There it was. The line. The appeal. The performance I had written in my head 100 different ways. But in reality, it wasn't a dramatic monologue or a teary confession. It was just a woman in shambles, looking at a man she never expected would stop loving her. "I'm not going to scream," I said calmly, stepping outside and closing the door behind me. I leaned back against it, folding my arms. "But I'm also not going to lie. I don't think this is about me anymore. I think this is about you not being able to sit in the mess you made." She looked stunned, not because of what I said, but because I wasn't giving her what she came for. "I made a mistake," she said, lower now. "Aiden, he's not who I thought he was. He's gone. He blocked me. He said I was too intense. He told me I used people. And maybe he's right. But you know me, don't you? You know I didn't mean to hurt you." I smiled sadly. "But you did." She looked down, shaking. I didn't know who I was with him. It felt like a fantasy at first, like I was escaping something. But all I did was lose the only real thing I ever had. There it was again. That dangerous word, real. I nodded. Funny how real things become visible only when the illusion collapses. She wiped at her face, and I realized she was crying. Not sobbing, not performing. Real, wet, heavy tears. And for a second, I felt the gravity of what we once were. I remembered her curled up against me watching true crime documentaries. Her humming while brushing her teeth. The small kiss behind my ear when I was doing the dishes. And then I remembered the hotel room. The burner phone. The wine glass with 2 lip prints. "Why didn't you tell me the truth when you showed up last time?" I asked. She didn't answer. "You said he left you." I continued, not angry, just exhausted. "But he didn't. You were still seeing him. Mara told me. And when he dumped you for someone shinier, you came back to see if I was still here, still soft enough to land on." She opened her mouth, closed it again. The wind was picking up. Leaves skated across the sidewalk behind her. A neighbor's dog barked in the distance like it was trying to fill the silence between us. "I don't have anyone left," she finally whispered. "That's not true," I said, pushing off the door. "You have yourself. And if you think that's nothing, that's exactly why this happened." She winced like I hit her, and I hated how easy it was for me to say things that actually meant something now. I had found clarity, and it came at a cost. But the truth is, I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to destroy her. I just didn't want to be her shelter anymore. "You think I didn't love you?" she said suddenly louder. "You think I just used you until someone more exciting came along?" "No," I said. "I think you loved me as much as you could, but your version of love came with conditions I could never meet without losing myself." She didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. We stood there for a while, two ghosts haunting a doorway that no longer belonged to either of us. She must have felt it too, that final severing, because after a few more seconds, she stepped back. Can I at least come in and say goodbye to Crouton? I shook my head gently. He's asleep. And you already said goodbye. You just didn't realize it. Her eyes welled again, but she nodded. She didn't push. She just turned and walked down the steps, each one slower than the last, as if she thought I might call her back. I didn't. Not this time. And when she reached her car, when the engine started and the brake lights flared red against the dusk, I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel sadness. I just felt done. But life wasn't. Because the next day, I got a message from someone I wasn't expecting. Not Mara. Not Callie. Someone worse. There's a certain moment after everything falls apart when you finally start to feel like you've outrun it. It doesn't happen all at once. It creeps in slowly, through long walks at dusk that don't make you think of anyone anymore, through silence that no longer feels threatening, through mornings where you make coffee without automatically counting out 2 mugs. I was starting to reach that place. I could talk about Callie out loud without flinching. I had stopped checking her socials weeks ago. I no longer imagined what I'd say if I ran into her at the grocery store. I even started laughing again, the real kind, not the polite chuckles people use to convince others they're okay. For the first time in almost a year, I felt free. And that's exactly when the universe decided to tap me on the shoulder and whisper, "Not so fast." The message came from Noah. Now, you need to understand, Noah isn't just a friend. He was my closest friend, college roommate, best man at our wedding, godfather to my nephew, the kind of person I called when my car wouldn't start or when I accidentally left the turkey in the oven an hour too long on Thanksgiving. Noah was loyalty personified, or at least, that's what I thought. His text was simple. Hey, I know this is late, but we need to talk. Something's been eating at me. Please, can we meet? At first, I assumed it had something to do with work, or maybe he was going through something personal and just needed to vent. I didn't overthink it. I just said, sure. Tomorrow? We met at a diner. Neutral ground. I chose the corner booth, the one farthest from the door, out of habit more than anything else. Noah walked in looking like hell. His beard was overgrown, hoodie wrinkled, eyes bloodshot like he hadn't slept in days. My stomach twisted before he even sat down. He didn't order anything, just sat across from me and said, I lied to you. The words hit the air like a gunshot. I didn't respond. I just stared. He rubbed the back of his neck. It wasn't a long thing. It was a moment. A lapse. I didn't think it would matter because she swore she was going to tell you herself. And when she didn't, I thought maybe it had passed. But it didn't. It just sat there, between us. And I kept telling myself I was protecting you. I was frozen. I didn't need him to finish. I already knew where this was going. Noah, I said, very slowly, what did you do? His eyes filled. The silence stretched, so long I thought it might split the table in half. It was before she left, he said. Just once. She showed up drunk after your fight about the Christmas plans, said she needed someone to talk to. I let her in. She kissed me. I didn't stop her. I think time paused for a moment right there. Not because I was shocked, but because my brain had started rewriting history at lightning speed, connecting dots I didn't know were dots until that second. The weird distance Noah kept from me right before she left. The passive comments like, maybe she just needs space, man. The way he changed the subject every time I brought her up. And then, worst of all, the way he avoided looking at me when I was at my lowest, like he couldn't handle his own guilt bleeding out through my grief. I didn't sleep with her, he added quickly, but I still let it happen. And I still lied. And I've hated myself for it ever since. I don't know what I expected to feel. Rage? Disgust? Betrayal? Maybe some cocktail of all three. But instead, what I felt was this bizarre, hollow sort of validation. Of course it was him. Callie never reached out blindly. She reached for what was familiar, what was safe. She always took the nearest escape hatch. And in that moment, I realized something I hadn't fully admitted to myself. She never just betrayed me. She betrayed the version of me that trusted people too easily. That version needed to die. And maybe this was the final nail in his coffin. I stood up without touching my coffee. Why tell me now? I asked. Noah didn't hesitate. Because I saw her last week. At a bar. She was with someone new. And I realized she never lost sleep over it. But I did. Every night. I nodded slowly. Then I guess we're both free now, I said. And I walked out. I didn't slam the door. I didn't look back. I didn't even pay for my coffee. I just walked out into the night, let the cold hit my face, and kept walking. Past the parking lot. Past the stoplight. Past the weight of 10 years I'd finally stopped carrying. They expected me to break. But I didn't. And the next morning, when my phone lit up with a message from Callie asking, "Can we please meet? Just one last time," I smiled. Because this time, I would be the one holding the mirror. She asked to meet at the park. The same one where we used to walk on Sunday mornings with lukewarm coffee and mismatched travel mugs, making up stories about strangers we passed. I almost said no. I almost ignored the message, deleted it, and moved on with my day. But something told me this wasn't just another attempt to rewind the past. Something had shifted. Maybe in her. Definitely in me. So I went. Not because I wanted to reopen the wound, but because I wanted to close it with my own hands. She was already there when I arrived, sitting on the same bench we always claimed as ours. She stood when she saw me, but I didn't rush to meet her. I walked slowly, the way you walk through a museum, quietly, respectfully, knowing what you're about to see is no longer alive, but still worth acknowledging. She looked softer, tired, but not in the way that begged for pity. Her posture had changed. Her eyes weren't searching me for weakness anymore. For the first time in a long time, she didn't look like she was trying to win. "Thanks for coming," she said. I nodded. "You said it was important." "It is," she replied, "but not for the reason you think." She took a breath and then sat down. I stayed standing. "I've been in therapy," she said. I know, it sounds too little too late. Maybe it is. But I've been digging into a lot of things. Why I sabotage, why I run, why I reach for the nearest person when I feel like I'm falling." I didn't say anything. She continued. "I hurt you, not just with what I did, but with how I made you doubt yourself. You were steady. You were kind. You were safe. And I confused that with boring, because I didn't know how to handle love that didn't ask me to perform." She looked up at me. "I'm not asking you to forgive me, and I'm definitely not asking you to come back. I just wanted to tell you, I finally see it. What I had, what I lost, what I don't deserve to get back." It was quiet after that. The kind of quiet that doesn't need to be filled. I slowly sat down beside her, not close, but not far. Enough space to show we weren't who we used to be, but still shared a thread that was worth honoring. "You know what I realized?" I said. "You weren't the only one who lied." She tilted her head, confused. "I lied to myself," I said. "Every time I said I was fine. Every time I excused a cold glance, a deflected conversation, a night spent in silence. I thought love meant shrinking myself, so you'd have more room to breathe." She looked down, then nodded. "I think we both disappeared somewhere in that house." "Maybe," I said, "but I've started coming back." There were no tears, no dramatic goodbye, just a long, calm moment between two people who had finally outgrown the version of themselves they thought they had to be. She reached into her coat pocket and handed me a small envelope. "No tricks," she said. "It's just the old apartment key. The spare one I never returned." I took it, then stood. "Thank you," I said. "Not just for the key." She gave me a small smile. Not sad, not hopeful, just real. And that was it. I walked away. Not because I was trying to prove something, but because there was nothing left to prove. I walked home through streets that felt familiar again, not haunted. I passed the bakery I used to avoid because it reminded me of her favorite scones. I stopped in and bought one. I sat on a bench outside and ate it slowly, watching people pass, each of them carrying their own invisible histories. For the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel heavy. I didn't feel broken. I didn't feel like a man waiting to heal. I just felt whole. And when I got home, I opened the windows, poured a glass of wine, and played the record she used to hate, loudly. Kelly was right about one thing. She didn't recognize herself anymore. But neither did I. And I finally liked the man I'd become. The end.